Hello and welcome to News Round, where you do a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up. Drama unfolds in the Senate over seating arrangement. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan takes on Senate leadership. And Benue Assembly suspends 13 lawmakers opposed to the removal of State Chief Judge Justice Maurice Opabese. And 32 years after, former head of state General Ibrahim Babangida admits to annulling the June 12, 1993 presidential election. He says in his memoir that it was for national interest. Plus, Hamas releases more hostages to Israel as part of a ceasefire deal. A news round begins in the Senate, where tensions flared during plenary as a dispute over seating arrangement led to a heated exchange between Senator representing Kogi Central, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and the Senate leadership. The controversy began when Senator Natasha's seat was relocated on resumption of the session, which she objected to. The Chief Whip, Senator Tahir Munguno, had raised a point of order, citing sanctions of the Senate rulebook to justify the reassignment of seats.
Lawmakers convened for plenary, which began smoothly. The proceedings, however, took a turn when the Chief Whip raised a point of order, drawing attention to an earlier stance of improper behavior over reallocation of seats.
Pursuant to Order 6, President of the Senate decided to rearrange this seat. And I'm surprised to report that Senator Natasha, having given another seat, refused to vacate her former seat in flagrant violation of our rules.
He explains that the reallocation of the senator's seat was owing to the recent defection of some opposition members to the majority wing, thereby causing a vacancy in the row of seats. The Chief Whip had hardly concluded when Senator Akpoti raised a point of order, attempting to speak without being recognized.
Order, please.
Dismissed Senator Natasha, please. You are not recognized to speak from there. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, Order 10 on privileges.
Senator Natasha.
Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising.
She is, however, not escorted out. Her colleagues plead with her to maintain calm. The direct confrontation with the president of the Senate apparently does not go down well with other lawmakers.
The reaction from my colleague senator from Kogi State this morning is uncalled for. I want to sincerely apologize on behalf of the Kogi caucus to the Senate President and the entire Senate.
In his response, the Senate President, who had a similar confrontation with the same senator in June last year when she equally attempted to interrupt proceedings, appealed with lawmakers for calm.
What has happened today is a total aberration. But anybody who wishes to go and make law must be prepared to bear the law. Please, distinguished senators, do not feel offended. The matter will be dealt with at the appropriate time.
Plenary continues with a motion on the Benue State House of Assembly crisis.
Mr. President, we feel that unless there is an urgent intervention, there is the possibility of a constitutional crisis.
However, what was expected to be a lengthy debate was swiftly cut short.
The lawmakers unanimously agreed to refer the matter to the Committee on Judiciary and Legal Matters. And that committee is also mandated to look into the Benue State House of Assembly crisis and report back to the Senate in 2 weeks. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And the Senate asked the National Security Advisor, the Director of the Department of State Services, the Director of National Intelligence Agency and the Defense Intelligence Agency to appear before it over allegations of funding of terrorist group Boko Haram by the USAID. The call for an urgent investigation into allegations that international organizations, including the United States Agency for International Development, may be funding terrorist groups like Boko Haram follows a motion raised by Senator Ali Ndume on the urgent need to probe the matter.
Days after a bombshell congressional hearing accusing the United States Agency for International Development of allegedly funding Boko Haram, lawmakers in the Senate are taking the claim seriously.
Funding of Boko Haram.
In a motion moved by Senator Ali Ndume, they launch a fact-finding mission to investigate the allegations.
Further notes that over the years, the modus operandi of Boko Haram in Nigeria has been a source of great concern. Urgent need for steps to be taken by the federal government to unravel the mystery behind this whole episode.
The claim comes shortly after the Chief of Staff, General Christopher Musa, raised alarm that terrorist groups in the country are receiving sponsorship and training from international organizations.
We need to be briefed, first and foremost, by the heads of various security agencies in a closed-door session.
Other lawmakers immediately align with the motion.
If there's anything to lead us to where this problem is coming from, of course we should take the advantage. We should see that advantage to see how we can deal with this serious calamity.
The investigation is going on right now in the United States Congress. The President, Donald Trump, also said specifically that in that investigation, the support given to Nigeria so far should also be investigated.
A resolution is adopted.
The Senate should immediately invite the National Security Advisor, the Director General of the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, the Director General of the DSS, the Director General of the DIA, to brief the Senate in a closed session on the veracity or otherwise of these very serious allegations. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Separately, against the backdrop of another motion raised by Senator Joel Onawakwo Thomas, lawmakers paid glowing tributes to late elder statesman and former lawmaker Pa Edwin Clark, who died on Monday night and wants a national monument named after him.
Clark was a self-described leader of the John Nation.
A minute's silence is then observed. The senators now resolved to ask the federal government to immortalize the late iconic leader, Pa Edwin Clark, and also send a delegation to extend condolences to the family, the Ijaw people, and the government of Delta State. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And to the lower chamber now, the House of Representatives is wading into the security situation in Osun State and has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to carry out an investigation. The resolution of the House comes after considering a motion from Honorable Babangida Salam calling for urgent intervention to avoid further crisis in the state.
The next motion is coming.
Members of the Osun State Caucus of the House of Representatives draw attention of Parliament to the deteriorating security situation in the state.
Take proactive steps.
Through a motion of urgent national importance, Honorable Babangida Salam, on behalf of the caucus, appeals to the House to intervene urgently.
The House notes that on Monday, the 17th of February 2025, violence broke out in several parts of Osun State as a result of attempts to take over the administration of local government by officials who were sacked by 2 court judgments in November of 2022. Disturbed that the sacked officials are now breaking the gate of their respective local government secretariats to forcefully take over the local government without recourse to law and due process.
All the prayers, except that of the 1-minute silence, should be deleted while the House, not to be seen as being partisan, to call for a committee to investigate this matter And the outcome of the committee will give us an informed decision.
It is always a bit dangerous for us to take decision without investigating the matter ourselves. Before we take a position with finality, we need to do the investigation, conduct the investigation ourselves. So whatever happened, we put it in the legal term, allegation, alleged until it is proven, isn't it? So it is in that context I felt that what Honorable Isiaka is proposing is a good one.
The House resolves to urge the security heads to ensure that peace is restored in the state and constitute an ad hoc committee to carry out an investigation to report back within a week.
Mr. Speaker.
Meanwhile, the attention of the House has been drawn to an impending danger along the Lokoja Highway.
Consigned that on Monday, 17th of February 2025, a very strategic accident occurred involving about 10 students of the Federal University of Lokoja alongside driver conveying them and articulated trucks carrying woods ran into the school shuttle bus conveying students, leading to the loss of their lives. Also consigned that along this particular route, many students of Kogi State Polytechnic and residents of Lokoja, neighboring Felele and immediate communities or travelers have met their untimely deaths.
The House of Representatives also observed a moment of silence for late Chief Edwin Clark. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And if you're one of those expecting the creation of new states from the 31 proposals recently submitted to the National Assembly, well, you may have to tarry a while. This is because the committee saddled with the responsibility of vetting those proposals have announced that none of the 31 proposals met constitutional requirements. This was announced by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, during a two-day retreat in Ikotekpene in Akwa Ibom State. According to the Deputy Speaker, despite the setback, the committee has extended the deadline for submissions to March 5th, 2025 to allow communities revise their proposals. And the Benue State House of Assembly suspended the 13 lawmakers that opposed the removal of the state's chief judge. The House, in a motion raised by the majority leader, Mr. Satas Tisser, called for their suspension, alleging this mischief after some of them participated in the voting. However, the 13 lawmakers have rejected the suspension by the Assembly.
Based on a letter by Governor Hyacinth Ali of Benue State, members of the Benue State House of Assembly resolved to remove the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Maurice Ikpembese. However, 13 of the lawmakers rejected the decision of the Assembly, which has drawn the annoyance of their colleagues.
The same people that voted, some of them even raised their two hands. The video is here. So what is the image? 13 people, 23 people voted out of 30 members that were sitting down, and the same 13 people are saying they were not part of that. The House resolved that they should be suspended for 3 months. And the House also resolved that, Clark, you write to them, let them refund the money for the trip to the Ministry of Finance, because the Ministry of Finance that paid them, let them refund it. And you also write to the consultant to return their passport. Is that one taken?
If they wanted, there's nothing they could have done. Rather, maybe they will bring another motion some other day. You can't discuss a thing that has been concluded on the floor, outside the House, because even at the floor, you have to bring a motion to let the House allow you to bring it if there are new facts you have discovered. So that was not good conduct, it was not honorable, it was disrespectful to the House, and by our rules, they are due to be suspended and we just upheld their suspension.
Nevertheless, the 13 lawmakers are rejecting the suspension.
Yesterday, we had a press conference where we disassociated ourselves from the purported removal of the chief judge. We fought to instill fairness, equitable and fair hearing, which were completely abandoned or ignored at yesterday's proceedings. Today, we have been suspended for standing against the arbitrariness, unlawful and tyrannical practice by the House of Assembly.
The suspended lawmakers maintain that the Assembly lacks the power to suspend them beyond 14 days.
So watching News Round live on Channels Television. So on the stories now, over 3 decades after the annulment of a June 12, 1993 presidential election, former military president General Ibrahim Babangida has finally admitted that late MKO Abiola won the annulled election. He made a revelation in his memoir titled A Journey in Service, which was launched in Abuja. General Babangida confessed that if he could turn back the hands of time, he will handle the June 12 debacle differently, adding that the then Chief of Defense Staff, late General Sani Abacha, was the key actor in the forces hell-bent on scuttling the presidential election.
It's an atmosphere of cheer and joy as one of Nigeria's military leaders is being celebrated by dignitaries from all walks of life. The roll call of those in attendance It's the launch of the memoir of the former military president, General Ibrahim Babangida, as well as the fundraising for the Ibrahim Babangida Presidential Library. President Bola Tinubu, who mobilized support against the military regime after General Babangida annulled the 1999 elections, recalls how the former military head of state failed to make history.
You inspired some of us. And when you look at the programs, some of the bankers and many of us that were here today about this library, about the project, it's all the happiness of a visionary Babangida. Thank you for what you are.
The keynote speaker is the former president of Ghana, and he reiterates Nigeria's role in Africa, drawing from the inspiration of its strong leaders.
I cannot forego the chance of this prestigious platform to mount an important hobby horse of mine, and that is the appeal I've made before in this great country to the political and economic elite of the Federal Republic to take aggressively the leadership of West Africa and Africa's efforts to unite our nations and economies.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo chairs the occasion, and he highlights the celebrants' contributions to national development.
It will be good, bad, and ugly, but your duty must be due, and you have done it. Now, if I may say that story about your duty must be due. When I was growing up in the village, we had a policeman, uneducated, a sergeant, and he was very good. Not one thing he never liked is pleading. And when you went to him to plead, to show that he was fed up, he would then break into English and will say, my duty must be due. And that is the end of the matter. Your duty must be due, and you have done your duty. You have not only contributed to history making, you have contributed to documenting history. It is an important part of our nation building to keep accurate records.
The book reviewer is former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who renders an account of the key points in the book.
He puts the facts out there. He gives his own reasons for the actions that he took, and he admits where he believes he was wrong. He also answers the question whether Abiola actually won the June 12th elections. And I quote him, "Although I am on record to have stated after the elections that Abiola may not have won the elections, upon deeper reflection and a closer examination of all available facts, particularly the detailed election results, which are published as an appendix to this book, there was no doubt that MKO Abiola won the June 12th elections.
For the author, he is grateful for the opportunity to steer the ship of the nation.
The tragic irony of history remains that the administration that devised a near-perfect electoral system and conducted those near-perfect elections could not complete the process. That accident of history is most regrettable. The nation is entitled to expect my impression of regret. As the leader of the military administration, I accept full responsibility for all decisions taken under my watch.
The book reviewer and former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Yemi Osinbajo, about some controversies surrounding General Ibrahim Babangida. Prominent among them are some coups he took part in, as well as the June 12 debacle. But more key are the words of the keynote speaker and former president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, where he says, if Africa must rise, Nigeria must play a prominent role. From the book launch of the former head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, Dele Omoyeni, for Channels Television News.
And to other top stories this week, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has left all parameters unchanged for the first time in 3 years. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, announced the decision of the meeting to hold all parameters. Says that the attention was paid to the stability in foreign exchange rate, moderation in the price of petroleum products, as well as concerns on food prices and supply.
Retain the MPR at 27.50%.
In line with expectations, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has adopted a hold stance at the 299th meeting. The decision, according to the CBN governor, was unanimous to the 12 members of the committee after considering macroeconomic development, top on the list being inflation, which was recently rebased to reflect an over 10% drop in the consumer price index.
Nobody should infer that inflation has fallen to that level. No, because you are really comparing apples and oranges. But suffice to say, though, because this is very important, that we can see that inflation is gradually trending down.
The perspective of the meeting seems to resonate with some economists.
I think the best way we can really assess whether the policies that they continue to implement are generating the desired outcome, especially when it comes to price stabilization, is to see whether there's going to be a continuous downward trend post-rebasing. Because if we see an upward trend, then you will just build out temporarily by rebasing, but the problem still continues.
The MPC believes that sustenance of the positive trend would depend largely on the collaboration between fiscal and monetary authorities.
It's one thing to come here, cut the rate, but that thing needs to feed through. So right now, we're having, should I say, food issues, and it's not something that is for the central bank to do. They need the fiscal authorities to also come to the party.
The next meeting is scheduled for May 19 and 20, 2025.
Away a news round with the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal. The family of Israeli hostage Shiri Bemis says a body handed over by Hamas in Friday's hearse. Speaking in a statement, the family said Shiri was murdered in captivity and is now returned home. Israel's forensic officials who've been examining the body are yet to confirm the identification. On Thursday, the Israeli government received bodies of hostages, which were said to be a mother and 2 children, members of the Bemis family, but the body of the mother turned out to be an unidentified woman. 6 more living hostages have been handed over by Hamas on Saturday as part of ceasefire deal. More than 600 Palestinian prisoners will be freed by Israel in exchange. And those were the top stories for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now. Bye.